I want to say I'm not endorsing anything. This was just the only sweatshirt I had clean at the moment, so please don't read into shit that's not there. I actually knew though that this was going to I knew that this was going to kind of bubble over, and I want to talk for a second about the differences between conservatives and why, especially as a woman, it's kind of interesting to start to understand politics and where which politics benefit you. So what's happening right now is it looks like Ben Shapiro has given a statement because I don't know if he was at some conference or he was somewhere amongst it looks like a group of Jewish people and when asked about the current behavior of Candace Owens, he called it despicable. He said she's been it's embarrassing, or he says something to that sentiment. You can watch the video, the Breaking Points video, in the description box that it highlights what he said. I think this was like last night or yesterday or something that he says this. Now, I feel like if I'm not mistaken, Ben Shapiro is the owner of the Daily Wire, and the Daily Wire is where Candace Owens currently works, or he has like a really big stake in it. Now, people are going to disagree about things, but I feel like I actually talked about this too because I saw Candace cover, or there's one episode that she did where she was kind of talking about Israel and Palestine, and she was basically talking about her focus here was that like or the points that I heard her make were like, I don't agree with America giving money to Israel or Ukraine or any wars. So basically, in terms of foreign policy and where she believes that money should or should not go, she does not support foreign domestic money like American dollars going to support war, even in the case of Israel. If it's not clear on the other side of that, there are people who are Americans specifically who do support money going toward Israel, mostly because they feel like Israel is the one place in the Middle East where there are Western values. So that's why you hear a lot of people. It's not just Jews, but it's mostly like other people who have a vested interest in the West, and they continue to say these things like Western values. What does it mean to be from the West? I feel like Megyn Kelly is pointing that out, those differences quite a lot. Ann Coulter does the same sort of thing. Um, I feel like, I mean, obviously, like I am black, African. That has nothing to do with the West. It's like kind of the other side. But I do think that like not I think I'm definitely Western in terms of like my values, the way that I live, right? Like I believe in capitalism. I'm not a socialist. I'm more of a libertarian. Those are kind of like political ideologies that it might take some. I don't actually. I'm not very familiar with all of like what my audience is now, or how you guys came to find me, but that is where those sorts of things become important. Like, I'm not just like a brown woman from the developing world. Like, I have an American passport. I was born in America. I have traveled to the through to and through the developing world, and I even have done some work in terms of development to understand these issues like on the ground. So that is where my perspective is coming from. So even as I plan to move to Africa, I will be like a gentrifier. I'm not just going to be like a person in a well or something. And like I'm going to have like electricity, an apartment, a debit card. I'm going to go to breakfast, lunch, and dinner. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not just some like free fall or anything. Anyway, so if I'm not mistaken, it looks like Candace Owens is going to release a talk with Tucker Carlson tomorrow or tonight or something on X. So I'll definitely watch that and then, share my opinion about that. But I think it's just more interesting to, first of all, point out that even people who are conservatives feel they differ amongst like political issues that they think are important. Another thing, I think it's kind of useful to unpack for a moment that like this issue is when we're talking about things that are like values, values to live by. Jewish people have a long history of being attacked by a lot of different groups. A lot of different groups have hate toward Jews. That is real. And I want that. Some of you guys don't. I've made other videos which talk about, like, if you're an American woman, like, you don't have to care. You can be an Ethiopian American woman, a European American woman, an Arab American woman, Mexican American, like, whatever you are, like, whatever your cultural identity is. If you were in America right now, you don't have to give a shit about the issues. But I still think that you should, because there's a lot to learn here. Now, Jewish people have done a very good job at, like, documenting their own oppression and allowing other groups to, like, learn from those lessons. Like, the Holocaust was brutal. The Holocaust was an awful event. But also, American chattel slavery was an awful event. A lot of people compare those two issues. There's not really a need to compare those two issues at this point, but some of the exact same sentiments that were brought forth during the Holocaust from the neo-Nazis, from Hitler, are being brought forth again. And that isn't a joke. So to people who actually care about almost like eugenics or things that have to do with, like, genocide, understanding why Jewish people are standing up right now and being very serious about, like, this is happening to us right now, we care. Like, Hamas, the terror organization, is striking terror. They aren't joking. They literally have said, we want to eradicate Jews from planet Earth, and that's not a funny thing to take lightly. Right? Like, I personally don't want any. I don't want to step foot. I would never live in the Middle East. That is another. Israel is kind of a scary place because it is so close to the Middle East and to those actual Muslim terrorists. That's a real thing, and I want to, like, make that clear. Like, that group isn't playing. They really have hate toward Israel and Jews, and I feel like how can I say it? Jewish people do have a right to protect themselves. And unfortunately, in this case, there are, like, victims of war. And in this case, it's the Palestinians. Lots of Palestinians are losing their lives. And it's really fucked up. But that's how it goes in war. Like, in war, innocent people die. Now, some of us have stood up and said, like, this is so wrong. We care. Cease fire, stop the killing. Whereas Israelis are saying, fuck that. Like, they killed some Jewish people. We want to fight back. And, like, in reality, both of those things are right. Morally, both of those things are right. This is a very tricky situation. And I feel like in Candace Owens' case specifically, she was going to have to speak on the issue just because it kind of hit pretty close to home for her in terms of, like, her boss is Jewish, or I don't know if he's her boss, but whatever. Like, one of her colleagues is extremely Jewish, okay? And, like, so that his community is being attacked. Like, I don't think that there's any affiliation with, like, Candace Owens and being Palestinian, so that's not a connection. But I heard her make this point, and I actually feel like a lot of Black Americans identify with Palestine because of the occupation in Gaza and the Gaza Strip. And it is very similar to Jim Crow, to American Jim Crow. Now, Candace Owens has her own stories that she shared. Just being a Black American, it's a very particular how do you say this? It encompasses a very particular amount of, like, the oppression of Black Americans in America is very specific. Maybe that's what I should say. And it was also very, like, purposeful. There's another video, I'll link it here, but it's from some African woman in Ghana. She's talking about gentrifying Ghana, but she was also talking about the dehumanization of Black people that had to be rationalized in America in order to make sense of the, like, atrocity, basically. And that's true. It was like a societal thing. And it's actually the same thing that happened with the Jews. So in order, like, how do you get, right now in America, you see people are outraged, they're burning shit, they're in the streets, they're marching with signs, they've got all this shit happening because they are taking a stand. There are other people who don't give a shit. I saw Rihanna dyed her hair blonde, like, Taylor Swift's on tour. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you can be mad, but at the same time, there are some people who are not upset about this. And I think you kind of have to make room for both of those things to be true at the same time. You have to make room for both of those things to be true at the same time. At the same time. And it isn't some like obliviousness where they know that it's not happening. So what I'm trying to say is, like, in order for Jews to be burned in ovens, okay, like, what do you think, the other people living there weren't gonna like smell it? Do you think there weren't children there who knew that, like, there were other children who were being put into ovens? You have to have this like societal shift that changes so that the collective group of citizens now says that this behavior is okay, and that is what happened. That is why Germany had to come out and create these like anti-hate laws. They've done all these things to make it so that something like that will never happen on German soil again. But there were like active policies and socialization tendencies that had to happen. So in that way, I think that Jewish people and Black people have something in common, where they have been on the receiving end of this like normalized dehumanization, and other groups kind of have like watched in silence. Now, I feel a lot of empathy here toward Ben Shapiro, because he is probably looking for camaraderie, for empathy, for sidedness, as in like he's looking for Candace Owens, who I feel like he considered a friend, to be politically on his side, to say like all of the things that he stands for, she stands for too, because she is his friend. But Candace Owens is also a woman, and she's also a mother, and she's also like a Black woman and a descendant of American chattel slavery by lineage. And that direct oppression that is happening with the Palestinian people, that story is probably a little bit more familiar than the story of the Jewish Holocaust survivors, I would assume. You can go watch my video from Ta-Nehisi Coates, where I basically talk about how Ta-Nehisi Coates gave a talk on Palestine and what that meant, why he, what his feelings are. I don't think any of us at this point are neutral. It's very hard to watch lives lost and be neutral. Like, that's not the case. But I think that when people are saying, I don't understand, I need more information, that's also difficult too, because as people do not speak out, actions are taking place. Like, you not speaking out is still American dollars that are being used to go kill Palestinian children, and that's rough. At the same time, those of us who have been familiar with foreign affairs are very aware, okay, of like other atrocities that have taken place, and other people like didn't speak up, and it wasn't really a problem then. All of those things are true, like, at the same time, and it's really hard. I don't know, these are not like easy issues to like talk about. They're very difficult, and it's fucked up, but I don't know.